Hello, everybody. It's Heather with the Leadership with the Heart podcast. And today I am super duper thrilled to have Connie Hill-Johnson on. Connie was referred to me from a friend of mine, someone, and Heidi, who's actually been on here before. And I'm just really excited for you to hear the kind of leader that she is. So welcome, Connie.
Thank you. Well, I am happy to be here. When Heidi told me about you, I was excited when I saw the email, and it's my pleasure.
So tell everybody, where are you right now in your leadership journey anyway?
Well, for those who are going to visually see this on YouTube, I am older than I look. So I'm not going to tell that age, but, you know, if I say chronologically where I am on my leadership journey, it's been several years, we'll say that. But from more of a growth standpoint on my leadership journey, I think I am just now getting to the place as a leader where I am feeling really fulfilled now based on the areas that I'm leading in here. And I'm feeling like I've found my niche or my groove, if you will, and kind of enjoying this leadership season of my life the past year or two.
Ooh, I love that. You okay? You got to tell us more. So, what do you do as a leader? What's your role? What do you have? Many hats? We'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'm wearing a lot of hats right now, and sometimes I wonder, you just kind of shift into automatic pilot, and you keep going, and you don't recognize until at the end of the day when you collapse in the bed. But the first thing is my bread and butter, if you will, and how I pay bills. I am an entrepreneur and own a home care agency called Visiting Angels. Went through a downsizing over 20 years ago, right after 9/11. I was living in St. Louis, Missouri, and saw an article in Black Enterprise Magazine, which you probably know about, Black Enterprise Magazine, and it talked about the number of minorities buying franchises. And I have to admit, after being downsized, I was looking for another job. Heck, find another job. And there was this article about minorities buying franchises. So I read the article and it just really intrigued me. And I went online and went on the website. And Heather, I would not be able to tell you what website I ended up on, but one link led to another link that led to another link. And I finally got to this page that had a profile to put your talents, your skills, how much money you had, some other particulars, and you hit submit. And then popped out a list of franchises that matched your profile. And I'm looking at these names and I ran across Visiting Angels. And I thought, that's a cute name. It's a cute name. Clicked on it, read about it, home care agency, custodial care agency. And I thought, I have a master's in healthcare. And I'd worked in the healthcare arena and in hospitals. So I thought, let me check this out. Kind of parallel to that, my dad was sick in Cleveland. I'm in St. Louis, remember? And he was getting services in the home. So I was somewhat familiar with people coming in to care for him and help my mom care for him. And I thought, now maybe I can do this. Now, remind you now, I'm getting an unemployment check and I'm sitting at home and working with an outplacement agent, trying to find, here I am, a master's degree woman, unemployed. But I had saved money. And I can be real anal. It probably took me a good 4 to 6 months before I pulled the trigger, if you will. And at that time, I couldn't make up my mind if I was going to stay in St. Louis, which is where I was living, or would I come home to Cleveland, back and forth. And I finally decided to buy the business and move to Cleveland. My father had passed by then. So I moved back in with my mom. I was still single. I moved in the house with my mother and started my business in the basement of the same home I grew up in, playing with Barbie dolls and easy bake ovens. And that's the journey that started as an entrepreneur. And probably, I don't want to say the beginning of my leadership, because I had been in senior management positions in hospitals before, but owning that role of leader, knowing that everything stops with me as a business owner. And that was in 2002.
Wow.
And started my business.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Look at you. Well, they say about the whole stats on failing enterprises. So good for you that you were able to keep it going. And I know it has not been easy with,
It is
gosh, oh my
not.
gosh.
And you're right. You don't realize. I remember at that 5-year mark when so many people were giving me kudos, and I'm thinking, what's the big deal? And they're saying, Connie, don't you recognize how many businesses don't make it to the 5-year mark?
Yeah.
And the fact that you are across 5 years is a big deal. Yeah.
Like
and now here we are, 21 years. Yeah.
Yes, that's just like, wow, that's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And you were talking about that you also, because you have many hats. So what's the other hat you're wearing, especially? Yeah.
Well, the other hat really I put on about 1.5 years ago now, 1 year and 3 months. I am on the board. I've been on the board of directors for the Cleveland Foundation. Very community focused, love my hometown, love everything about serving in the community. I'm a Cleveland girl, even though I've lived places, but I'm a Cleveland girl through and through. And so I've been on the board of directors for the Cleveland Foundation, which is the oldest community foundation in the world.
Wow.
And I'm 109 years old. And I was approached by the governance committee about 1.5 years ago. Yeah, maybe about 1.5 years ago, saying, would you consider being the next board chair? And of course I said, absolutely not. Like, no, I like being a board member. I like serving on committees. No. But then as a Black woman, and I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. I talk to my husband, men think differently. It's like, and the problem is, and what do you mean you told them you had to think about it? And so I stepped back, counseled with some folks, and one mentor that I respect, he says, calls me sis. He said, sis, why shouldn't it be you? Why you know the community, you'd be historic in your positioning, being the first. It's going to stretch you. And I knew the foundation was going through two huge things, would go through two things under my leadership. One is we just moved from downtown to the inner city of Cleveland. We just opened a brand new building right in the heart of Huff. So you talk about a big deal. And then the second is I knew likely our CEO was going to be retiring. And under my leadership, I would be leading the search for a new CEO.
Oh, boy.
And we just announced our new CEO.
Oh, yay.
And so
good for you. That's a big effort.
I led a 6-month search. So that's probably where I have experienced the most growth and servant leadership and I don't even know the word, stretching that I've experienced, but it's been good. I've found that I have skills and talents and a bigger heart for the community and people than I even thought I had. Yeah.
I'm curious to know, where does that kind of desire to be, particularly like a leader that's focused like on impact to the community, like where does that come from? Did it stem from someplace? Was that like that for you when you were younger?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I'm also involved in sort of like a sub group, if you will, specifically centered around Black philanthropy, and worked with a group of folks to bring a national exhibition here in 2019 that really talked about changing the narrative around what philanthropy looks like in our community. And so I think I came to the realization after bringing the exhibition here, working with the community, was that we as people of color have always been philanthropic and have always given. We just didn't call it philanthropy. And so as I began to reflect back and study and read, whether it was dropping money in the plate in Sunday school, or taking close to the Goodwill, or, there's so many villages in our community.
Oh, yeah.
Find out that, Ray across the street needs money to get through that last semester of college, and people are just going to figure out how to get that boy out of college. You chip in. And so I think that whole movement around how can I be involved in changing the narrative of what giving back looks like in our community stretched me as a leader, stretched me philanthropically, not only of time and talent and treasure, but I've added a fourth T, which is in my testimony, time, talent, treasure in your testimony. But when I look back on my family, we just did that. I was a middle class, probably lower middle class family. My parents were blue collar, but we never did without, but it was always esteem the other person more than yourself. Do something else for somebody else. Don't be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Always look to give back, to help somebody else out. And it is carried over into my adult life. It's kind of like innate, if you will.
Yeah, well, they talk about nature versus nurture. And in this case, like it's interesting how that kind of legacy of caring for others external to you, how your parents pass that down. I find that often with those who are focused on others or philanthropic or those who are even just like caring inside of the workplace for other people and always trying to go out of the way. I mean, I always see that it stems from something way back, and that nature thing is quite powerful.
Yeah. And I think probably that's what drew me to Visiting Angels, because the model is we primarily take care of seniors in their homes. And so most of us are going to have aging parents or aging in-laws. We're going to all age. And that desire to want to care for someone as they age gracefully, hopefully, it's not always the case, and not the family not have to think of, oh, I've got to go put mom or dad in a facility, but to be able to bring in, and that's why I love the name Visiting Angels. That's really what
I love it.
Taught me, because to hear clients refer to my ladies as angels, just does my heart so good, because we're going into homes where the adult children are stressed, or their mom has Alzheimer's, or their dad has Parkinson's, and they have to work and they need some support. They can't do it all. And so being able to lead in that fashion and hire individuals who have a heart to serve, we can teach the technical skills. I can teach you how to pivot transfer. I can teach you how to bathe somebody in the bed, but I can't teach you that heart part when you're caring for someone and it's your mom, and you have to trust that this angel who's in your home is doing well by your mom while you're at work.
Yes.
So that service orientation, I've always wanted to be in the service business. I never wanted to make widgets. I always wanted to do something where I am serving and giving back. And so it's kind of carried over into business and my personal life.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. So now for those who are listening, this is the time of the podcast where they can already see that, boy, like I can see why Heather has on here as a leader with heart, right? And leaders with heart are not perfect, which is why I want you to tell this story about a moment maybe in your journey where you don't feel like you maybe were focused on being that caring leader, that leader with heart in some way, shape, or form. What did that specifically look like? And then what did you do, or what happened to make you kind of come out of basically out of that kind of valley in a way of leadership into a more enlightened place? And I say enlightened, and I don't say perfect. I say enlightened. It's like, what made you go, okay, something's got to change. I need to change this thing. And let's talk about that. So could you share that? Can you think of something?
Yeah. I'm thinking of a couple of things. One may be a little touchy, but at the beginning of this journey, way before, I kind of refer to things as either pre-COVID, post-COVID, or pre-George Floyd, post-George Floyd. Yep. So this is pre-George Floyd and pre-COVID. And love seniors. I'm one of these folks that if you give me kids or seniors, I'm going to take seniors every time. Like when you're in church and they need someone to come work in the nursery, I'm never raising my hand to go work in the nursery to help out in church. You need me to go help with the older people doing something, I'm cool, but I'm not going to help in the children's ministry. But that being said, at the beginning of my business, I'm not certain I exemplified great leadership. And to a degree, maybe I still don't, now that I really think about it. You've kind of forced me to think about something here. On my business cards, I never put owner. I never put president. I never put CEO. put managing director. And my thinking at the time was, I'm a private pay business. And I quickly found out that in going to folks' homes and wanting to take care of their parents, we had to deal with the race issue many times. To the degree that I was faced with some families saying to me that they did not want a woman of color. They did not want a Black woman taking care of their loved ones. And the first couple of times, I was taken aback. And had to figure out how to best handle it. And I'm not certain I handled it well the first time. I didn't say anything inappropriate, but I just did not handle it well in terms of, I think it shocked me. And I don't know why it shocked me, but it did. It's one thing if you're sitting in someone's home and then all of a sudden that comes out and you think, oh, I'm about to get this business. And then it's like, well, can I ask you, there's one more requirement, Connie. And so I remember that first time and I just fumbled through something and left. The next time it happened, I was very well prepared and gave I believe, a very mature leader's answer in terms of saying, you know, ma'am, I understand what you're saying, but number one, I can't discriminate as an employer. And I can't place staff based on their race. My job is to give you the best aid caregiver for your mom, regardless of race. You've got to have the best person. I said, but let me take you a step further. Just because that person would be white doesn't mean she's the best person for your mom. And let's say your mom, they just don't match personality-wise, or she's just not good. Then you're likely going to call the office and say, Mom doesn't like Mary. Mary's not working out. Can you provide me with another aide? Which every family has a right to do. Is your expectation going to be then that that second person not be a woman of color? And I said, so you see the hamster wheel you put me on. And so we are not most likely the right company for you. If that is of critical importance to you, then I'm okay walking away because there are likely to be other companies that will meet that need or that desire. I'm just not one of them. And so over the years, I have felt quite confident in responding that way because it's happened. Not as much the last few years, but it happened on more than a few occasions at the beginning. So I think I'm hoping that sort of answers, you know, when I talk about, because I think I just wimped out the first time because I was so taken aback and I was disappointed in myself. I'm like, this is your company. Why didn't you know how to respond to her? But I probably, if I had really just come out of my emotions, it would not have been pretty, I'm sure. I think the other thing is not ever feeling totally comfortable putting CEO on my business card. To this day, it still says managing director. It just, because I've had the question asked of me in meetings. I never lie. If someone says, is this your business? When I'm doing an assessment, I say yes. But if they assume it's not, and then I'm working that the big boss is there and I'm just the intake person, I just let it roll.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I've toyed with that over the years. And why don't you have your cards changed? And I just have chosen not to, because I choose not to have to come face to face with that if I don't have to.
It's interesting because it does. No, that's super helpful. Gosh, there's a lot up in there. There's such a lot up in there. I think about, I went to law school, so I have a JD, I have JD initials, but I don't use I've gone in and out of using my JD initials. And that's mostly because my husband's like, oh, you need to use it because you worked hard to get that law degree. You better go ahead and use those initials. And I'm like, but what the problem is, I talk about caring leadership, leading with heart, compassionate leadership, which in the average person's mind does not align well with JD at the end of the name. It's just, right. It's that same type of thing where it's like, what am I trying to get to? Am I trying to create connection with people? Or am I trying to create distance between me and them?
Exactly.
And so part of that, I think I bet you a part of it that's going in your mind is like, well, CEO also kind of props me up higher outside of the issue or the person or the whatever, right?
Right. And I think when that occurred more often than not towards the beginning of my business, because I have a heart for seniors, part of me would get angry each time because I'm saying, we just had a 30-minute conversation. You have offered me a cup of coffee. I've met your 88-year-old mom. I already have in my mind who's going to be a phenomenal caregiver. Is bent towards this woman thinking, oh, we can help her, and this daughter is going to be so relieved, and the stress is going to be taken off of her. And the mother is even saying, you're so nice, sweetie. Could you be my caregiver? And I'm saying, no, it won't be me. And then I get hit with that.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
That just kind of just makes me go, bzzz, just takes all of the joy and the desire to want to serve out of me. Because we're still at that place sometimes in a society. And I just have to kind of talk to myself in the car and say, you remember that scene in The Help when she talked to the little girl and she say, you is beautiful.
Oh, I love that.
You is courageous.
I love it so much.
I have to say that to myself sometimes during those moments that you still are here to serve, and you are a phenomenal manager. You're a phenomenal leader. And just because one person shared that with you because of their biases does not mean that you have failed. Because I think everybody's supposed to fall in love with Connie. I mean, I do.
I'm in love with you, so there you go. And I'm sure people listening will be.
They're supposed to fall in love with me and automatically want to do business with me, but it doesn't happen like that.
Oh gosh! Wow, thanks for truth. Like I said, I think there's a lot embedded in that, and it is unfortunate that we have to continue to have those discussions. And I'm not sure that will ever go away, unfortunately. And I think we just have to be. I think you're right. Like the bigger person, the more rational person, like think it through in advance to be prepared
and stand up for what's right. And so I think for me, because in talking to colleagues, some people thought I was wrong. They were like, "Girl, take the business. You," because I have a diverse staff. You should have just given them what they wanted. And I said, no, I've got standards. I have ethics. Put the legal part aside that you don't want to get sued for placing people based on race. I said, that's not the right thing to do. My job is to put the best person there. Had the best person been white? Okay. But when someone lays that out as a qualification that they'll do business with me only under those circumstances, I just was not going to change who I am as a person in terms of how I operate my business. I just wasn't. So.
And I talk about a lot. When I talk about care and leadership, one of the elements of that is self-leadership, and a kind of a subcategory of that is congruency. And it's like, are you what you say you value most? And if you're in that whole idea of like having standards, having ethics, if that's the thing you say you value most, but then your behaviors don't align with that, that's a lack of congruency. But in your case, you had a congruency because you were doing the thing that you say you value the most. So
yeah. So that was I didn't mean to drop that on you, Heather.
No, that was good. That's good stuff.
Leadership shows up in a whole lot of different ways. I'm sure you know that better than me. And that rings in my head still to this day. And every once in a while it'll rear its ugly head. And I have to just take a deep breath but I handle it like a pro now. I'm just like saying, what time is it? My answer
comes out naturally.
Just flows out. I don't hesitate. I don't hiccup. It just comes out naturally.
Well, and I also think, you know what, it doesn't really matter what's in your car, Connie, anyway, because it's how you show up in your behaviors towards other people that determines whether they look to you for guidance and they continue to follow you in that way. That determines your leadership. Your leadership is not determined by the title on the card.
Right.
You could say I'm the head janitor. It doesn't really matter.
Thank you.
It doesn't.
Leadership has nothing to do with the title. And thank you for saying that. You are so, and I try to tell my staff that too, because they'll think sometimes as caregivers, they're viewed as the bottom of the totem pole. And I said, stop. You are not. You are there to do a role because somebody else can't do it.
Mm.
You are just as much needed on that medical clinical team as far as I'm concerned, the doctor, the nurse, the physical therapist. You're the one there who's doing really more of the hands-on.
Yes.
The being able to put skin to skin and rub on someone's arm and rub on their legs and, you know, bathe a frail little lady who is enriched by just your warm hands on her. So no.
Such good stuff. I am, those who have listened to me for a long time know that I'm totally geeking out right now on all the goodness. Some people geek out on other things. This is my thing right here. So.
This is yours.
Oh gosh. Okay. So now we've reached the part of the podcast where we kind of like switch the tables a little bit, and you get to ask me a question. Like, what question would you want to ask me in your universe, in the world that you're in?
Well, I think the first one is, how did you not get into podcasting? I know people do podcasting, but how did you focus in on this caring leadership? Because there are a lot of leadership programs, podcasts out. What happened in your life that you thought, wow, this is something I really want to talk to folks about?
Yeah, you know, I think early on, I realized as a manager, so I was managing people for, you know, a long time, had manager title, right? But I realized that my leadership was most impactful because I leaned in with a lot of heart with people, so that whether they were reporting to me or not, they'd come to me because they knew I'd hear them. They came to me because they knew I'd see them. And so I just saw that early on in my career. And I got to the point where, to be honest, I got real sick of working for jerks or people who just didn't have a clue. They may have had good intentions, but they really didn't put all the effort in, whatever it was. And I had a couple good ones too. And I had I only needed a couple to maybe realize what was really missing at work. And so I think that's what it ended up being. I mean, it started way early for me, feeling like a child who didn't have a voice, didn't feel heard or really, really important in my household, because I come from an interracial, interfaith background, and it was all kinds of craziness going on there. But the biggest thing was just going from workplace to workplace, either managing people or people indirectly coming to me. And I realized how much pain was going on there, and how like no one was paying attention, and no one was like caring about what these people were feeling and going through. Customers would be frustrated. No one was caring about what customers were needing and wanting. And I was that person. And so I kind of said, well, all right, well, I think I need to be the person who continues to elevate this discussion, because it comes to me more naturally. I am not perfect at it. I am not always caring. I am not always leading with heart, but I am 80% of the time, let's say. So because it's more than the average, it's better than normal, I think I need to kind of get it out there. And so I started the podcast just to have conversations with people. And then that turned into a book called The Art of Caring Leadership, which turned into another book called The Art of Active Listening, and all the work that relates to that. I mean, it just all came out. So that's where it started from, though. Just kind of think the journey kind of created.
Yeah.
The nature, the nature. I think it was actually the nature. And I don't know if the nurture was part of it. It was like just being in the household and living the life I did created it. You could take two stones and you could make a diamond, or you could crush them and create some kind of interesting pebble. And I think I chose to be the diamond more than the pebble. So,
wow. You know, I always hear my pastor say that who we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, he said 90% of it can be traced to home of origin. He said, most of us, our bad stuff, our messy stuff, it's pretty much aligned back to, and I think we recognize that.
Oh,
we do.
Yeah.
I know. I see things in myself, good and bad. And I'm like, oh, no, that comes from home. Oh, you know,
I got to get rid of that, or I need to work on that.
Yeah, but it is what it is. And you just have to kind of figure out how you manage through it all.
It's absolutely true. So true. So for those who are listening right now, who may be kind of like at a crossroads, their leadership, they just may be thinking about like, how do I better contribute? What might be a couple pearls of wisdom you would leave them with?
Yeah, probably the first one is leading and managing are two different things. Two different things. You know, just because you're a manager does not mean you are a leader. And it took me a while. Full transparency, it took me a while. And again, you're going to say, how many times is she going to reference her pastor? But he says, a leader without any followers is just taking a long walk. He says it. So That was a revelation to me about managing and leading. You can be a leader and not be a manager. Because when you look behind you or around you and you see people following you, and I don't mean following you literally, but who have an ear to hear what you say, and whether it's good or bad, or who come to you because they're struggling with something, or they just want to share something good, because I want you to know this because blah, 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 or maybe you were there for them or you gave them a bit of advice. And so that would be the first thing, is recognize leading is not managing. So for those who have manager on their business card, or they do supervisory visits or performance appraisals, just because you're a manager doesn't mean you're a leader. So that's the first thing. Probably the second thing would be, if you care for the people. I mean, I have found that my success and probably my weakness in having visiting angels is not just my care for my clients, but my care for my employees. And I have stressed to my employees over the years, and they will tell you this: I will go to the mat for you. If you don't care for the people that you work with or who work for you, with whatever environment you're in, you might as well go be an accountant and sit in a cubicle and crunch numbers. But I have found, particularly in my field, because I work with what I call aides or caregivers, many of them are single mothers, working 2 jobs. And if I could share with you, Heather, the many I have picked up whose car broke down. And I'm thinking, baby, you have to have your job. I will come get you. You cannot call off work. But I care about them because I know they need that check. I know they're trying to feed 2 kids. I know they care for the senior. They don't want to leave their little old lady by herself. So that's the other thing that I think I would tell people, is really examine your heart and find out how much you really, really, really care about people and the other person, whether it's your coworker, whether it's somebody you're over at work, whether it's your next door neighbor. Do you care about humanity? You know, when I think about philanthropy, the Greek meaning of the word philanthropy is love of mankind. And so I remind the board and the staff at the Cleveland Foundation, if we don't love the neighborhoods and the residents that we serve here in Greater Cleveland in Northeast Ohio, why are we working in philanthropy? Yes, we want donors. Yes, we want money to come in, but that's so we can give money out to the nonprofits that are serving the community. And so if we don't love the people that we're here to serve as good fiscal stewards and good fiscal managers, but if we don't know our why are you here serving in this organization? And if it's not that you love the people, then go serve somewhere else. So those would be my 2 nuggets, is know that there's a difference between leading and managing, and then love the people. Love the people.
Connie, you are a woman after my own heart. I am, if there ever has been. Oh my goodness, Heidi, that was a smart move you made. When she's listening to this, she'll be tickled that I'm mentioning her name here a couple times. But oh my gosh, for those who are listening, I know I am just like, my head just, like it's so much goodness in here and so many things to be thinking about. And so hopefully you've taken a lot away, and definitely make sure you share this far and wide. And Connie, seriously, it's been it's a huge gift to have you here with me on the show too. I appreciate you.
Heather, thank you so much to be able to talk to you and talk to you more about the essence of who I am as a woman and a person versus just what I do, the tactics of what I do. Has been so enriching. So I thank you. What a blessing to talk to you.
And thanks everybody for listening to the Leadership with Heart podcast. Be well.